Another week down in the NFL books, and another week where the luckiest team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs, pull off a come from behind last minute victory. It seems like you just never know what's going to happen. Oh, wait, yeah, we do know. The Chiefs are going to win. That just seems to be the narrative, the storyline, however you want to put it. They seem to be the team that will come out with a W when it's all said and done. But there was a lot of great games that happened this last week, and we will be sure to be talking about those and even more better games to come as we preview those. I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights, where I'm your host, Matthew Raridan, and with me today is none other than our very own Ed Smith.
Welcome, y'all.
And also we've got Thaddeus Lloyd.
Hey-o.
Well, guys, like I said, Chiefs, another victory. So far, I think Ed has been completely right. He is onto something. If you can't tell with his picks, he seems to always be on. But the Chiefs, it doesn't look like they're going to lose. Yeah, they may not look like the best team in the NFL, but they know how to win. And in the end, that's all that really matters. But another team that really knows how to win, that's pulling out these victories, is the Baltimore Ravens, who have poised a massive threat in the AFC to eventually face the Chiefs, as they did face off in week one, but I'm sure it's going to be a playoff matchup, as they hosted the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals, gosh, just like 2 years ago or so, this was one of the best teams in football. Their record doesn't indicate it, but they still do have a great team led by a great quarterback in Joe Burrow, and they seem to give Baltimore all that they can, as they have now faced off twice this year, and both games have been decided by 3 points or fewer. This game being only decided by 1 point, and that is the Ravens with a 35-34 victory. But other numbers that really stand out to me in this game, well, is the offense, because that's all there really was offense in this game. And Ed, when you hear the names like Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, you think that's going to be a great pass defense. Oh, are we wrong on that? Doesn't that sound shocking to you?
Well, as we pointed out before, the Baltimore Ravens pass defense is just atrocious. And it's hard to think that it would be, because they're not on the field as much when they have a running game like they have with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. So how that in turn becomes just the worst pass defense that you could find, I have no idea. But here we are. And this is the reason why I expected this game to be close and almost came up with the upset pick on it, because you've got just out of this world receivers, especially Jamar Chase, playing for the Bengals, and he ran roughshod over that Baltimore Ravens defense.
Oh, he absolutely did. And it's like we were watching the LSU offense all over again when it was ran through him and Justin Jefferson. And it's always been the talk since they came to the league. Well, which LSU wide receiver was better, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson? And you always hear it split. And with Justin Jefferson coming to the NFL years sooner, his name became a household name if it wasn't already. Jamar Chase is just as good, and we pretty much already know that he will most likely get a larger contract than Justin Jefferson because, well, the market was set with him, and now Jamar Chase is expected to beat that. But he is just a baller. He really is, and this is no offense to him because the Ravens do have such a bad passing defense, but he is just that good. And if you did not know, he finished the game with 11 receptions, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, those are Madden numbers. We all remember the game that Calvin Johnson had, and that will go down as a legendary game for a wide receiver. But Jamar Chase in 2 games this year against the Ravens has put up over 500 yards. Close to 500. I have to look at the exact number. But that's just unheard of. But Thaddeus, another number that stood out to me was Derrick Henry was contained for only 68 yards. Would you consider that a victory for the Bengals?
That would be considered a victory, but then you were able to partially stop one half of that offense. Actually, no, a third. Sorry, because you also have Lamar Jackson running.
Yeah.
But now you got to stop Lamar Jackson running and his passing. Now, Lamar isn't an elite pocket passer, right? He's not, Joe Burrow or Josh Allen when it comes from throwing in the pocket. However, he still can go outside and make those passing plays. And that running game with him and Derrick Henry is so potent. Teams are always stacking that box. And even when they do, it's hardly a success, which makes the Bengals, they're like, oh yeah, we were able to stop Derrick Henry. But you got absolutely torn up by Lamar's passing attack. That 1 yard play to, who was it, Wallace, broke one tackle. He was down the field, gone. 75 yard touchdown. So even though you're able to stop one part of it, that second part, now you have to worry about the second part. And excluding the first 2 weeks of the season, ever since they beat the Cowboys, no defense has been able to stop this attack. I think they're the number 1 offense in yards per play right now. And it's just insane how it is, because once you stop one part, well, you got to worry about the other part.
Yeah, and Thaddeus, you said something just last week or the week before, is Lamar Jackson is playing better than he did last year as an MVP. And shoot, Ed, I've seen 2 of the greatest plays I've ever seen a quarterback make this year, and both of them were made by Lamar Jackson, and both of them were against the Bengals each time. The first time in the first game, and another one in this second game. I don't know how he does it, and I've watched that replay over and over again of him escaping the Bengals. I don't know how he did it. It was a pure Houdini act, because it looked for sure he was going out of bounds. He was going to get pushed, something. No, he has somehow escaped them, tiptoed down the sideline, and did his thing. Those are MVP type of plays, and then some, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that is really what Lamar Jackson is. In basketball, you had the human highlight reel, and this is the NFL version of that. So to say that it's a surprise that Lamar Jackson is making plays that nobody else can make, I think we've grown somewhat accustomed to him making plays that nobody else can make. So then it becomes somewhat expected, which makes it not feel as, oh my God, amazing. So it's kind of a conundrum. You're seeing greatness, but you're almost expecting that greatness to come out of him at the same time. So it's one of those where you're like, oh, ho hum, he just broke somebody's ankles and tightrope the sideline and did his thing to the point where it looks like anybody could do that. Well, nobody else can do that. That's Lamar Jackson, and that's what we saw when he came out of Louisville all those years ago. How would it translate to the NFL? I think it's been a rather successful test.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be on his 3rd MVP here soon. So, bearing he keeps it up this year, it's tremendous coming from a Heisman winner to an MVP, 3-time MVP possibly, is phenomenal. But this game did not come without controversy. The very pretty much last play, it was the 2-point conversion where the Bengals went for win. They went for broke. It was, they could kick the extra point, tie it. or they could go for 2 for the win. And we've seen a trend in the NFL. It seems to be go for 2, get that win. And it was almost like the Big 12 officials were reffing this game, kind of, Ed, right? And there was a kind of a massive no call that happened here, where to the point to where fans were like, were the Ravens gifted this? Because there were 2 instances on this play, one being the hold, and 2, the shot to the face of Joe Burrow. In the NFL nowadays, you touch that quarterback's helmet, it's a flag, and they seem to be pretty quick to throw those flags. They did not. And then the hold on such a crucial play. Thaddeus, what were your thoughts on this? Did you think there should have been a call made, or do you think the officials were fine letting it play?
Well, there was might have been one call, but on that last 2-point conversion play, there was the holding on the left side of the screen. That was correctly not called because Joe Burrow was looking that way, completely inconsequential out of the play. And I agree with the ref that shouldn't have been called. And I was looking at the Gesicki one, and it was looking back on it, it was kind of ticky tacky. Could have been called, it could have not been called. So I was fine with it either way. I'm probably in the minority here, but I don't think Zach Taylor actually should have gone for it. There was still 40 seconds left, and I actually don't think Lamar could have gotten them down the field, even though they were blowing it up. The Ravens offense was blowing up that Bengals defense. I don't think they would have gotten within Justin Tucker's range. And Justin Tucker has been on the struggle bus this year, in the last 2 years, actually. So I don't even know if they would have gone there. They would have made the field goal. So I actually don't agree with the decision to go for 2. I mean, what was it? There was a previous game. Oh yeah. Todd Bowles not going for it for 2 on the Monday night game, the previous week against the Chiefs. He should have gone for that one, but I don't agree with going for the 2-point against the Ravens for that.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been a proponent to take the points. If points are there, take them. But to correct you, Justin Tucker's range is like 70 yards. That dude will say anything. Anywhere's his range. Ed, your thoughts on it really quick?
When it comes to officiating, all you can ask for is consistency. And what we're seeing, especially in a call like that, is if it was being called the rest of the game and then not called there, that's an inconsistent deal, and the players absolutely can't play like that. They don't know if they can do something or if they can't do something. It's kind of like an umpire that has a 3-inch wider strike zone than what the plate is. Fine, have it, but call it consistently the entire game.
Yeah.
And to have all these controversies of referees doing it one way for 3.5 quarters or 3 and 9/10 quarters, but to have it not be called when it needs to be or vice versa, that is a complete travesty of what the game is supposed to be. So I get they were trying to say, "Oh, well, let them play it out." Well, it's not really letting them play it out if you have somebody basically hopping on the back of a wide receiver in the middle of the end zone, and that should be called. I don't care if it's first quarter or fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there needs to be consistency, and I do get with division games. There's a lot where they'll usually try to let them play because they're more physicality, especially in the AFC North. But you have to be consistent on things, and when calls are obvious like that, it needs to be called. So I totally get what you're saying, Ed. Next game, this was the Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, NFC South showdown. This was Darren Rizzi's debut game for the New Orleans Saints as he took over for Dennis Allen. And I didn't see this coming. I really did not. Falcons, they tend to be leading that NFC South, kind of in there, having their own way. But they've been a very interesting team here because right when you start thinking they're looking good, things are starting to click. It's not. Now their record's down to 6-4 because of this loss, and it kind of leaves you in limbo. Look, what do they need to do to get past this hump? Luckily for them, the NFC South is one of the worst divisions in football, so you got that going for you. So, good job, Kirk Cousins. No wonder you picked the Falcons. You could be mid and still win. But, how impressed were you, Ed, with Coach Rizzi's debut win for New Orleans? I mean, it's pretty big.
It is pretty big. And to be able to step in and have the team rally around a new head coach after they've had the same head coach for, gosh, how many years has it been?
Too long.
6?
Too long.
Exactly. To have the team come in and just rally around Darren Rizzi shows some character, that it isn't just the team fell apart. It's they had lost faith in their leader. And it just goes to show that Dennis Allen had to leave. He had to get out of the building. And Rizzi, him tipping his cap to the faithful of New Orleans saying, "Don't give up on us," that was, I think, indicative of the way the team felt. So the fact that the Saints were able to kind of bring that out in themselves and, be tough, getting to the end of that ball game and forcing Kirk Cousins to be Kirk Cousins. Uh, yeah, let's throw a check down on with 10 seconds left in the ball game from the 40-yard line. No. So there's that. But Derek Carr came to play. He's normally a mid quarterback, and he played not a tremendous game, but he played a mistake-free game, and that's an improvement for him. So being able to do that and have everybody rally around that, it's what New Orleans needed to feel better about the rest of this season.
Yeah, they really needed that because they came out and said that they don't plan to rebuild. So they want to continue to be competitive, and a win like this in a division game shows that they may not be able to make the playoffs, but they want to be competitive. Where Thaddeus, you notice on the stat sheet here, Kirk Cousins didn't have a single touchdown. The 2 touchdowns for them was from Bijan Robinson. You look at their stat sheet, they had a pretty good game overall because it was pretty well spread out. Bijan Robinson did his thing, all right, but what was missing was Kirk Cousins not throwing a touchdown pass. Is there anything to you that they could have done better besides that to possibly win this game?
Yeah, well, it was surprising because the Saints just traded away their best corner, Marshawn Lattimore, to the Commanders. So it was really surprising that Kirk Cousins didn't have a field day because, well, in the previous games this season, he's had a field day against the Buccaneers, and it was really surprising on that. And then it was also a little mystifying that the Falcons defense gave up as many points as they did. Now, I've been expecting this Falcons defense to be better than it has been. I think their back end, especially their safeties, they might have the top 3 safety duos with Jesse Bates and the other safety. I forgot what his name was right now. But they don't have a pass rush with getting Matthew Judon. And so I think the defense has been a little bit of a concern. Now, as far as the team goes, there's just been this weird inconsistency. Now they aren't falconing it like they used to. Like, they have a huge lead and then, they gave up that lead in like the last 3 minutes. Wow, they allowed 20 points in 3 minutes. They're not doing that, but what they're doing instead is they're winning some games that are slightly surprising. And like, oh wow, okay, they might be good, but then they lose to these teams with under 500 records. And you're like, where did that come from? We just saw it with the Saints. And we also saw earlier in the season where they lost to the Seahawks. That was just really weird losses that are happening. So, like you said, this division is pretty bad right now because the Bucks don't have Evans and Godwin. Godwin's out for the year. You got the Panthers, who have won 2 games in a row, but not very quality wins. And then you have the Saints, who did have Dennis Allen, but they just fired him. They brought in Rizzi now. Interim head coach winning his first game. We've seen this before. Let's see if it sticks. I did hear someone say, though, that the Saints locker room just hated Dennis Allen that much that they wanted to get that win, you know? So we're going to see what happens with Rizzi. Hopefully it turns out good for the Saints, but it's just another really weird Falcons loss, which might happen 2 or 3 more times this season, even though they are going to win the division.
Yeah. Carolina Panthers are like showing up to Sturgis in a Vespa, okay? All right, let's be real there. 2 wins in a row isn't really that impressive, but I mean, to their standards, maybe it is. All right, well, we're wanted in Italy with those Vespas, okay, but not in America.
You did it!
Yeah, and funny enough, they didn't even win in America. They won in Berlin, Germany, okay? But Ed, you want to give a quick shout out to your boy MVS? He had a great game.
We have an MVS sighting. He is the guy that will absolutely drop every ball that is thrown directly into his chest. But he will make the most outrageous catch that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of wide receiver he is. It's weird how that happens.
It is so, yeah. It's just, you would think the obvious ones, but no, for him, it's I want to make those Lynn Swan type of catches, but all right, whatever. Speaking of ex-Packers, Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets against the Arizona Cardinals. This was a bully beatdown, and that's crazy to say about the Arizona Cardinals. This isn't the Kurt Warner-led Larry Fitzgerald Arizona Cardinals. This is Kyler Murray. They beat him 31-6, and how well is this Devontae Adams trade working out for you, Jets? Because it doesn't seem like anything is working for them. And what's more embarrassing about this is going into this year, everyone raved that the Jets had the best defense in the league. They just gave up 31 points, and they are continuing to give up points, and their offense isn't showing out whatsoever. And you had Breece Hall, who was supposed to be one of the best running backs in the league. All right. Oh, now they got Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. He's back to his old form. Doesn't look like it. I don't know what the Jets need to do because they've already fired their head coach. They've changed some of the play calling around, who's calling plays. Aaron Rodgers seems to have had his way, but they aren't winning games. Thaddeus, what do the Jets need to do to finally win some games?
Well, first off, they need to bring back Robert Saleh. They need to fix that defense because as soon as Saleh's got fired, they've only had one decent defensive performance. All the other games, I believe, since they fired Saleh, they have been giving up the most yards per game out of any defense in the league.
Coincidence?
It's crazy. Coincidence. Oh, coincidence, you say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need to shore up that defense because Aaron Rodgers is definitely not looking like the MVP that was promised, 3 years ago from the Packers. Hats off to LaFleur, by the way, for making that happen.
Yeah.
And it's just, this defense is terrible. The offense, when not playing an incompetent defense, just cannot get anything going. Now, you could say they run into a buzzsaw with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals might be up and down, but they are starting to get things together. And a crazy fact right now, the Cardinals have not allowed a touchdown in 3 straight games.
Wow, that is impressive.
People don't realize this. So, and who can you name one player outside of Budda Baker on that Cardinals defense that is good? You can't really name anybody else. which shows you how much of a job Gannon is doing. I feel bad for Ulbrich. He got put in this position by Woody Johnson, and they changed out offensive coordinators. Has done nothing. Aaron Rodgers' aura offense isn't working either. Oh, let's get Davante Adams back. Yeah, it doesn't really work when your entire O-line is a bunch of potential Hall of Famers, but they're like in their 30s.
Yeah.
So it's not helping out very much at all. And Davante Adams, while still a good receiver, had showed a couple signs of slowing down a little bit. He's clearly not the same player he was, 3 years ago, like with Aaron Rodgers. They're just not the same players anymore. So now they backed themselves into a hole. And the problem is does Aaron Rodgers want to come back for next year? Because if he does, they're kind of screwed. Should they draft a QB? I don't know. Should you draft an O lineman? We have no clue what's going to happen with these Jets, especially with how their record and how their season is going. So it's not looking great for the Jets, and they need to shore up that defense. But it's not just the defense. This aura offense, I'm just going to call it the aura offense, is not working right now, and it only works against specific defenses that he's only going to play like 3 times a year. So, and I think he's already might have had all those wins already.
Yeah, he very well may have. But this Cardinal team definitely deserves its credit, Ed. And I'm looking at this stat sheet here. How many running backs does this team have? The list continues to go on and on. It's really weird to see one team have 4 running backs, but that's pretty much what they have. And if you want to include Kyler Murray, they got 5.
Yeah, and that just makes them more efficient because they can spread that running attack around, and they are using some of these orbits. They are using some of these non-traditional running schemes to basically scheme themselves open for that. And in turn, Kyler Murray has been able to be efficient throwing the ball because there are so many players that are getting the ball both in the run game and in the pass game. Kyler Murray was 22 of 24 for 266 yards, and that's an efficient day at the office. No interceptions, 1 touchdown, 95.9 QBR. It all worked for him. And when this game started, Arizona just jumped them. It really was just, we are going to hammer you and not let you get into this game before it's already decided. By halftime, it was already 24-6. And the touchdown that Arizona scored in the third quarter, that was just icing on the cake just to make sure that it's completely out of reach. But when it comes to the Jets side of it, you done messed up, Ron. Because this whole thing, that Jets aren't going to get any better until Woody Johnson is no longer the owner. I think we can safely say that at this point, because it doesn't matter what he does. He is a bad owner, and the success of the organization comes from the top down. I mean, even bringing in Davante Adams, who, by the way, had 13 targets but only 6 catches, that is not up to his standard. That's not up to Aaron Rodgers' standard, and it just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, it really does. And once again, I want to give credit to the Cardinals organization, because it very well could have been the what could have happened, because just a couple of weeks ago, Budda Baker was on the trade rumors, but they started doing good. The defense, like Thaddeus said, hasn't given up a touchdown 3 straight games. That quickly took him off the trade block, because they're now running. They want to run with this because they're now leading the NFC West. So good for them. Honestly, good for them. They've had kind of a roller coaster so far this year, but they're looking to trend in the right direction. So credit to them. And since we're talking about NFC West and standings, I want to go off the playoff seeding as of right now. Obviously, there's still several games to go in the NFL season, so this could change. But you look on the AFC, Kansas City being undefeated, they would be the 1 seed. Buffalo sitting at 8-2 would be the 2 seed, followed by the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-2, and the Houston Texans rounding out for the 4 seed at 6-4. You go to the wild card, Baltimore Ravens being a 5th seed. Oh my. Followed by the Chargers at the 6 at 6-3, and then lastly the Denver Broncos 5-5. That is a shocker, but they gave the Chiefs a run for their money. And I must say, I am really impressed with Bo Nix. No affiliation, Oregon. He is leading all rookie quarterbacks in every category this year, from touchdowns to passing yards. He's doing phenomenal. So good job, Bo Nix. Sometimes you need a quarterback coach like Sean Payton. He will elevate that. He will open up that offense for you. So I'm happy for Bo Nix and that success. On to the NFC. Number 1 seed, the Detroit Lions, one of the hottest teams in football. Number 2 seed, Philadelphia Eagles at 7-2. 3 seed, Atlanta Falcons at 6-4. And the Arizona Cardinals at the 4 seed at 6-4 as well. Wild card, Minnesota Vikings at 7-2. Washington Commanders 7-3. And then the Green Bay Packers 6-3. That 5, 6, and 7 is so dang good. And they have better records than 2 of the teams, the division leaders right now. But that's just how it works. I mean, that's just how the playoff seedings are. You got to win your division. And as you can tell, the NFC North has a very tough division. Before we preview these next week games, Thaddeus, care to give us an update on our picks?
Yes. So we all had winning records last week. It was not a bad week for picks. Matt and I went 4-1. Well, Ed finally had 2 losses in a week for the first time in like 4 or 5 weeks. So Matt is now at 25-25. Ed is leading us at 36-14, and I'm 7 behind him at 29-21.
I'm up to 500. That's all I hear, and I'm fine with that. So, it's only going to go up from here. I once was at the bottom. I'm moving on up, baby, like the Jeffersons. So, on to these next week games, because these are some good games this week, and these are going to be some very tough games to even choose. So let's start with the division game here, and that's the Washington Commanders going into Philly to take on the Eagles. This game is for first place right now. And who knows how the rest of the season could go. Once you take first place, there may not be any looking back. So this is a very, very important game for both these teams here. Washington coming off a home loss against the Steelers, whereas Eagles, they beat that nobody team, that Dallas Cowboys, I think their name is. That was an easy victory for them on the road. Whether the sun was or was not in their eyes, they did not complain. And I talked about them not being a very impressive team. Yes, they've had flashy plays. We've all seen the Saquon Barkley reverse hurdle over a player, okay? Yes, but they seem boring still as far as how they're winning games, but they're winning games. Just like I say with the Chiefs, guys, they're 9-0. There's not a 1 in the loss column, right? There's a 0. So it doesn't matter. They are still winning games, and they are leading this division. So the Commanders, yes, they need this win. They really do need this win coming off a loss against the Steelers. And I think the Commanders have a very impressive team led by a very impressive coaching staff, I might add. But I think the Eagles have this kind of mojo on their side that's helping them win these games. Picking up Saquon Barkley in the offseason was a very much needed pickup on their end. And yes, they've lost people to retirement, but the Eagles haven't played their best football yet, just like the Chiefs. I'm going to have to go with the Eagles on this one at home. They're 3-1 at home. I think they're going to start running away with the division here. Washington's had a great season, and I still think they'll make the playoffs. But I think this is the Eagles' division to win. especially with the Cowboys being where they're at right now. The Eagles could easily run away with this division, and I think this will be the first step to that. I'm going to go with the Eagles this game, and it is going to be a very offensive type game. I'm going to go 32-27 Eagles. Thaddeus.
Yeah, like you said, I also think this is going to be an offensive game. Now, how I look at this game is it's going to be coaching versus talent because Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat after week 3 of this season. And then, oh, wow, look, they have talent. And then they started winning a lot of games. I think they've won like 4 games in a row or 4 out of the last 5. And while Washington, you don't have a good defense. It kind of showed up against the Steelers again. But they definitely have a better coaching staff, I believe. I feel I feel like Washington's head coach, he's been a little Dan Quinn. He's been doing a better job at actually coaching than Sirianni has. So I'm going to give the edge to coaching on this one. I think Washington is going to come out with a victory here. Let's say 31-28. It's just you can't win consistently in this league just on pure talent alone because eventually that catches up to you. So obviously, I think, like I've said, the Eagles are a very talented team. It's just Sirianni has been the problem with the Eagles all year long. And I think it's finally time that the talks of him being fired are going to start again after this week.
Which is crazy, coming off of 5 straight wins. Ed?
So this game is being played at Lincoln Financial in Philly. And Jaden Daniels has not had a road game like this since he's come up, and I think it's going to show. But also, Washington's rush defense is atrocious, to put it politely, and Washington's running at this point is phenomenal. So I think the talent in the run game and the way that Kellen Moore, is running this offense right now, I think they can out talent Washington at this point. But Thaddeus, you're absolutely right. Nick Sirianni can coach his team into a loss rather than coach them to a win. So it is a little frightening, but I will take Philadelphia in this, and I will take it. I will take them 31-22.
Okay. Division matchups, there's nothing like them. It always brings out the best football in teams. And going from one division to another, we got the AFC North here. That's the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Every year, this is always a highly talked about matchup, not just in the division, but in the NFL. John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, they've been around for a long time. They've garnished quite the rivalry. No hatred between the coaches, nothing but respect. Players, on the other hand, there's always some animosity there, and I've seen a lot of that actually in the last several days, which actually has me a little worried. Me being a Steelers fan, the Steelers have done well in aspect of Lamar Jackson against them and Derrick Henry. The history has been on the Steelers' side against those two players, which are the Ravens' 2 best players. But I start seeing things that I don't like online, and that is players for the Pittsburgh Steelers talking crap. Mike Tomlin even, kind of dissing Deontay Johnson, an old wide receiver of ours. I don't like those things, especially going into game week. That fuels the fire that the Ravens already have. There is, like I said, there is a lot of animosity between these two teams every time they play. Going back from the Ray Lewises, Terrell Suggs, James Harrison, Troy Polamalu's, it has always been primetime football. And now when you bring up these things, it just adds more fuel to the fire. And the Ravens are one of the best teams in football right now, and that's the last thing you want to do. it is a road game for the Ravens as they come into Pittsburgh. But like I said, when I see those things, I don't like them. I really don't. I'm one of those that I have, and I know the players have a lot of respect for the other opposing players too, but I just don't like doing those things leading up to game week. I would prefer for you to look at film, practice, stay off social media, but instead we're seeing the opposite, and that's sloppiness to me. So I'm going to have to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win this game. I think it's going to be an all-defensive matchup, just as it always is between these two teams. We're going to go 21-14 Ravens. Ed.
Well, this game is always the epitome of the irresistible force meets the immovable object. Whether it's Baltimore's offense against the Steelers' defense, or with Russell Wilson now, the Steelers' offense, which has looked more efficient against the Ravens' defense. So there's a lot of, it's hard to kind of tilt each way because you can see how each team has a path to victory on this. But what I'm seeing most out of the information provided is that Pittsburgh is going to hold on to the ball longer. They are a bit better at defending the pass, and they know how to handle John Harbaugh's offensive game plans. So with that, I am going to take Pittsburgh to get it done, and at home, it's got to be a field goal game. So we're going to say 17-14. It's not going to be pretty, but it'll be effective.
Yeah. Thaddeus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So for some reason, it's the flip-flop. Lamar Jackson has been absolutely dominant against NFC teams in his entire career. So about 6 years, 5-6 years of starting. He's only lost one game versus the NFC. His kryptonite has been the Steelers. He's won, I believe, 2 out of 7 matchups against the Steelers, and he's never thrown for, he's thrown under 260 yards. He hasn't thrown for more than that in any of the game versus the Steelers. He has, at least in 6 games, he has 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions against him. And for some reason, Mike Tomlin's defense just has a way of figuring out Lamar Jackson. It's a division game. It's always going to be tight. But even though we have Lamar Jackson, an electric player, you have the Steelers defense, which is crazy. But then now you have this added in factor. Now we got a little bit more of a sprinkle this year because now the Ravens are insane on offense as far as the stat sheet go. Them and San Francisco, we'll talk about them later, are the only 2 offenses to be both top 5 in passing and rushing. But then you have the Steelers, who now actually have in their 3 games with Russell Wilson, they're averaging over 30 points a game, which we haven't seen in Pittsburgh since mid-age Big Ben, not even late career Ben Roethlisberger, middle-age Ben Roethlisberger, so like 2010s Ben Roethlisberger. We haven't seen that in almost a decade in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be really intriguing. I'm going to tick up that score a little bit from Ed, but I'm going to be taking the Steelers in this one. I think Russell Wilson, he's got his deep ball back. He's not elite, but he's got that elite deep ball. And that's what matters with these jump catch receivers with Pickens and now Mike Williams in the fold. I just think they're going to be able to squeak out that last minute touchdown drive. Give me the Steelers 21-17.
You know, there's one thing that worries me, and I don't know if you guys saw earlier this week, Richard Sherman made a comment about George Pickens saying he's got that psychopath in him, but I like it. Richard Sherman played with a lot of chip on his shoulder too, but George Pickens, dating back to college at Georgia, you know, he's gotten in fights, he's gotten suspended, and that has carried over to the NFL, unfortunately. he is a freak of a talent, but a lot of things are in his head. And what worries me is division matchups. It gets chippy, it gets chirpy, and George Pickens needs to do his best to contain himself, because if he doesn't, he could easily get kicked out of a game. So it worries me going into division games, because without George Pickens, we do have Mike Williams, Calvin Austin, and other receivers, but he's our number one receiver. And when you lose a number one receiver, you know how things could go from there. So I hope you guys are right. I hope I'm wrong here, but the division matchups are always the best. And hey, guys, look, another division matchup here. The Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason why this game's so important is because San Francisco is not leading the NFC West right now. The Arizona Cardinals are. But if they lose this game to the Seahawks, it makes it even tougher to win that division. But the Seahawks are then 5-5, and so are the Niners. So one loss here for the Niners can change a whole lot of things, and also for the Seahawks can change a lot of things for them too, because they are, it sounds like, getting a healthy DK Metcalf back. Well, maybe not fully healthy, but it looks like he will be playing. And if they can get things going, they can make a run too. The Niners, I think, need to win this game more than the Seahawks do, because this is a Niners team that made the Super Bowl last year. They were expected to make it this year. And if they're second in their division halfway through the year is not a good look. So the NFC West is not as good as we thought it was going to be, but nonetheless, the San Francisco Niners are still, a game or two away from being on top of the division. So it is pivotal for them to win this game. It's at home. But the Seahawks have not done enough to really show me that they are this same team that started out 3-0. I was impressed with them starting out 3-0. Since then, they're 1-5. Okay, so that just shows you how quick their team turned around for the worse. The Niners are getting some key players back with Christian McCaffrey. If only they could compose a lot of this issues that are happening on the sideline, Thaddeus. I would love to hear your thoughts on that with the whole Deebo Samuel drama. But I'm just going to be quick here. I've got the Niners winning this game. I don't have it being close at all, even though I said division matchups bring the best out of you. I just think it's only going to bring the best out of one team here, and that's the Niners. I'm going to go with a very impressive 28-10 victory, Niners. Thaddeus.
Yeah, so this is a very pivotal game for the Niners. They are currently trying, maybe surprisingly to some, trying to chase the Cardinals for that top spot in the division. And as I heard Nick Wright was saying earlier this week, he thinks it's going to be up. The Niners and Cardinals are going to be going against each other for the rest of the season. And that week 18, Niners versus Cardinals, Sunday Night Football, winner takes the division, loser is out of the playoffs. That could be a potential scenario, and it sounds really crazy, but it does have the potential. So this winning any division game or winning any of the games are very pivotal for the Niners going the rest of the way. And I have them absolutely winning this game. The Seahawks, like we said in the first time the Niners played the Seahawks, Geno Smith has just struggled against this Niners defense. He might be the number one passing quarterback in the NFL. They are currently number one in passing yards per game. But you know who's behind them? It's San Francisco. But not only that, they're the number 2 passing offense and the number 5 rushing offense. This Niners offense is crazy, even without Brandon Ayuk. Now you got Christian McCaffrey a second week. Now, I was a little mad at Kyle Shanahan because he was just heavy workloading Christian McCaffrey right off getting two of the injuries on to his legs. But Christian McCaffrey is such a distraction. He just brings this aura to the field that all of this attention is sucked to him. And Ricky Pearsall, after getting shot, makes his NFL debut a couple weeks ago, gets his first NFL touchdown last week. Pearsall looks good. Juwan Jennings is back. He is a fantastic receiver. Had almost 100 yards versus the Bucs. George Kittle, still an elite tight end. And Brock Purdy is just dishing it out, despite, may I add, Kyle Shanahan's incompetency is what it's looking like. So this Niners defense is still not elite as it once was, but they still have a top tier corner duo in Charvarius Ward, who I believe is coming back this week after this. He missed last week because of the sad, unfortunate passing of his daughter, so he had to take a week off. But he's coming back this week. They just signed Yamador Lenore to a 5-year, $90 million contract, I believe, which is huge because he is an excellent corner. And their secondary is really good. You got Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. This defense is still elite. And the Niners typically turn it on in the second half of their season. So those are all big reasons to why I believe the Niners will just have an absolute blowout versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks won't be able to pass it on the Niners. And Geno Smith, like I said, struggles against them, giving the Niners 35-13.
Ed.
So I think we can safely say that we're all picking the Niners. It's pretty well across the board. One, Christian McCaffrey coming back, and he looked like he was kept out enough to get fully healthy and not trying to rush back, which can lead to more injury. So that makes them much more dangerous now that they have the X factor back in the offense. But the other part is I've seen Seattle have just dumb penalties over and over and over again. And in fact, they're the worst as far as offensive penalties in the NFL right now. And they're going to do something dumb that is going to negate a big play, some momentum, something to that effect. And that's just going to lead to San Francisco just running away with this. I'm with y'all. This shouldn't be close, which means it'll probably be very close. But I'm going to say that it's 38-20.
Yeah. Yeah, it's these division games. Like I said, you never know really what's going to happen with them. And for all we know, we could just be wrong and Seattle pulls out the victory here. So it's always unpredictable. Although this next game is not a division game, it's going to be one of the best games of the week. And that is the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills. It's going to be a road game for the Chiefs. Two things with the Chiefs, pretty much every game this year, is that they tend to be close, and the Chiefs have won every single game. So I'm going to make things very short, sweet, and quick here. This is still Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It is an away game. It's going to be close, but they're going to win because why would they not? They have yet to show really that they're going to lose a game. We're going to go 27-24 because it could be a last-minute field goal for all we know. It could be a last-minute field goal blocked. Okay, we saw it happen last week. So it's going to be a close one. I do see the offenses doing pretty decent here. So 27-24 Chiefs. Ed?
Over the last 5 weeks, Kansas City has had more 10-play plus drives than any other team in football. And when they hold on to the ball that long, it's going to force Josh Allen to try and play gunslinger to get down the field. And when that happens, that's when he starts making some of those costly errors, just trying to fit balls into windows that shouldn't be there. So I am taking the Chiefs because I'm going to dance with the one that brought me. Because like you said, why would I not? They're undefeated until they're not. And at this point, I've got no reason not to take Kansas City, although it is very tempting to take Buffalo at home in this. It's still just a toss-up at this point, but you got to go with the guy that's won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, you don't always have to go with Vegas, even though Vegas has Buffalo winning this game. But the Chiefs have yet to lose, and you don't know if they're ever going to. Thaddeus?
Yeah, they have to lose at some point. I mean,
Do
come on, man.
Do they?
That Broncos fans are in shambles.
Yeah.
After what happened. Like, we could beat the oh no. Oh no.
Every
There goes-
fan base is in shambles.
Yeah, every fan base in shambles.
Except the
I was
Chiefs.
in shambles. I wasn't like really in shambles because it's
Yeah.
not the playoffs, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it was just like, how do they keep on winning? Well, it's because they're excellent in all three phases of the game, and their special teams showed up last week. Now, there's a little conspiracy theory going around that the refs allowed it, but I don't believe that. I just think they have to lose at some point, and if they're going to lose against a team, it might as well be the Bills. Because while I don't think the Bills can beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, they beat them in the regular season. They've done it before, and it just has to happen at some point. It's insane. People are saying this is the worst 9-0 team I've ever seen. And it might be true, but they have to lose at some point. I just think the Bills are on a really good rhythm. They're on a good winning streak. They've blown out some teams. I just think this might be their opportunity to finally give the Chiefs an L. Do I think the Bills are better than the Chiefs? Probably not. But in this game, they might be. So I'm going to be taking the Bills. I'd take them 24-21.
Yeah, and that was almost my point too, is that it's the regular season. So if Buffalo were to win, it would happen now, just not the playoffs. Because we know come playoffs, it's Patrick Mahomes.
I'm still taking the Chiefs, but I can see a scenario where if this is the game that Kansas City loses, it's going to be a dog walking of the Kansas City Chiefs. But until we see that, there's no reason not to take them.
Yeah, if it's a close game after halftime or at halftime, it's like you have to think it's the Chiefs all the way. And they score at such the right times. I noticed that last week, right before halftime, they went up for it on fourth down, got that Travis Kelce touchdown, and it was like, that's all they needed. That was all they needed. They know when to score when they need to, and they win games. That's all they do. And why you left Travis Kelce wide open on a fourth down on the goal line, it's beyond me. But you knew he was getting the ball, but it is what it is. Last but not least, game-wise here, it's the Battle of Texas. You got the Houston Texans versus the Dallas Cowboys. It's not going to be much of a battle, but the only battle here will be, well, it's not sunlight that's in CeeDee Lamb's eyes. It'll probably be the stadium lights because it is a Monday Night Football game. Seems to be the only battle that we're probably going to face. But the Texans, they're pissed off because they let a game slip away from them against one of the best teams in football. You had a quarterback who was Mr. Efficient throw for 5 interceptions, and you still lost the game? It is beyond me. I saw a stat. Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns, lost the game. Jared Goff threw for 5 interceptions, won the game. So the NFL is crazy, just like college football. It is beyond crazy. It's the Twilight Zone. The Texans should win this game. I know they're not the best on the road this year. They're 2-3, but shoot, the Cowboys are 0-4 at home. They're 0-4 at home. They're going to be 0-5 come Monday Night Football here. You could have all the faith you want in Cooper Rush, or actually it's Trey Lance, who's I think is going to start. But you're still going to get the same result, and that's a loss. I'm going Houston Texans winning this one. Their offense hasn't been super impressive, even though they do have a lot of key pieces. But I'm going to go 21-13 Houston. Thaddeus.
I don't even think it's going to be close. You got the, like you said, the Cowboys haven't won a game at home, but it's not only just that. They've gotten decimated at home. This is the worst. I think they have the worst point differential at home in Cowboys history since the 80s, when they were bad, in between that area between the 70s and the 90s, where they were really bad. This is how bad it's gotten. They got blown up by the Lions. They got blown up by other teams earlier in the season at home. And that was with Dak Prescott. Now, I don't think they're going to be allowing 40 points. But the Texans, like you said, are going to be pissed off. How could you lose that game? 5 interceptions for the defense, and that offense couldn't get anything going. The good news for the Texans, though, is they're getting Nico Collins back, which CJ Stroud and Nico Collins just have this mind melding connection, like peak Aaron Rodgers and peak Devonta Adams used to have. That's what's going on, and Nico Collins is coming back. This Texans offense, Joe Mixon running it. The Lions were able to stop Joe Mixon, which is pretty crazy, and they still put up 23 points. So I think this offense, despite losing Stephon Diggs for the year, this offense is still going to be very potent for the rest of the year now, if Nico Collins stays healthy, of course. But as far as this game goes, it's going to be another blowout. Give me the Texans 31-13.
Ed?
I'm very much in the same boat. There's two ways that the loss that Houston had on Sunday night can go. It can either piss them off, as you said, Matthew, or it can just crumble their confidence after a game in which they had every right to win that game. They just didn't. So when you run into that situation, it can sometimes give you a crisis of confidence. So I'm still going to take Houston in this. There's going to be enough support there to where it feels like a home game for Houston, because I think the Dallas faithful, yes, the whole we them boys faithful, they are starting to lose faith, and when that happens, Jerry World becomes a home game for whoever the road team is, because it is such a large stadium that they need to fill seats, and they will fill them however possible. And just a 3.5, 4 hour drive from Houston, from stadium to stadium, that's nothing for people from Texas. So it's going to feel like a Texans home game, and the Texans will just beat down the Cowboys just like the Cowboys have been beaten down, because that same defense that picked off Jared Goff 5 times is now going against Trey Lance, of all people. That is horrifying if you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna put a score on it, we're gonna see another 40-point game from a Cowboys opponent at Cowboy Stadium. So like 41-13 or something.
Yeah, I could very well see it happening too. Well, a couple points before we go off air. Legendary head coach John Robinson, who was head coach for USC Rams, has passed away at age 89. He's been around for a long time, did a lot of incredible things for Southern California. So he'll be missed for sure. And lastly, just a quick little exercise, or just something I saw over the weekend. I'm sure you guys saw it. Pepsi is advertising this commercial with the new Gladiator movie coming out. And they have NFL players coming out in Gladiator gear: Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, and Justin Jefferson. And it made me think, and this is for you fans out there too, put in the comments, there was one person in the NFL that you would choose to be that would win as a gladiator. Who would it be? I thought it, in those are big stars there, but in my opinion, I'm going with probably like a linebacker here. Although Josh Allen's a humongous human being, linebackers are some of the freakiest athletes out there. I see someone like a Fred Warner being like a gladiator that would win a competition. Guy's a freak, but I just thought I'd ask that question because I saw that commercial and it came to mind. I'm like, which NFL player would actually be a legit gladiator who would probably kick ass? So if you guys think of someone, let us know in the comments. Just fun little exercise. But we appreciate you guys tuning in today. That's about all we have. If you hit that like and subscribe button, we would appreciate that. Share these videos as well. And once again, hit us up in the comment section with your predictions, your opinions, and, well, if you just want to talk to us, let us know. But until next time, guys, actually, before that, don't forget to miss us on our Saturday college football special. We will be looking forward to hearing from you guys then. We've got lots to say because we got another great weekend for college football. But until then, we are rounding third and we are headed for home.